God, grant us the strength to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Hey everybody, I'm Rich. I am a grateful recovering marijuana addict. Hey everybody, you know, for me the marijuana is a symptom, the real problem's in here, and the real solution is the 12 steps. So anyway, I was voted in as the Newcomer Support Trustee at the last conference. So I wanted to talk to you guys before we get into the skit and the really fun stuff. Difficult topics were presented in a very fun and interesting way. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about what Newcomer Support is. So when we are talking about Newcomer Support, we're talking about how our newest members, a lot of people are coming into MA now, especially in the pandemic, especially now with the legalization. People are coming into MA in droves, and we need to support them. And what we do in Newcomer Support is I work very closely with Nina, who is our correspondence trustee, and we get the mail, the email, the phone calls, the text messages from newcomers, and we respond to them. Typically, a newcomer is a lot of times looking for information. You know, what is Marijuana Anonymous all about? You know, we have volunteers, marijuana addicts, who call people back, and they explain to them what Marijuana Anonymous is, what Marijuana Anonymous is not. We also often get requests for sponsorship. At Newcomer Support, we do not provide people with sponsors. We show people how to get sponsors, what type things you need to do. Find a meeting, go to a meeting, put your hand up, say you're a newcomer. And we would rather, I heard someone say this at another presentation, we teach them how to fish. We do not provide them with fish. We give them the tools in order to become a part of this program, in order to be in recovery. Now, oftentimes when we're dealing with newcomers, our newest members, we want to make our meetings a safe, open, representative place for newcomers. And so one of the things that Marijuana Anonymous is doing in order to enable this is we have the Representation and Accessibility Subcommittee, which works to try to teach us how to do this. And these are very difficult topics that we're dealing with. So we wanted to present to you guys in a very fun and interesting way a Biters and Scratchers Anonymous meeting. So I'm going to turn it over to our players. I will be participating myself, but I come in later. So I welcome you to Biters and Scratchers Anonymous meeting.
Are you sure this is an open meeting? Can we be here?
We're gonna be talking about that. So before we begin, I just want to
meeting with an open wound.
Introduce everybody. So we're gonna be having our actors here, okay? But first, I just want to introduce our lovely panelists that are gonna be supporting our actors. We've got Mike C. And then we have the beloved LB here. So much. So we have here our members of Biters Anonymous. They're going to be gathering to illustrate safety issues that affect members and their recovery. So after a brief showing of the issue, we're going to go to the panelists to talk a little bit about the issue, and then we're going to return to the meeting where the members will resolve the issue in ways that may be helpful in building an experience. There's always more than one way to do something, but our actors are going to be helping to show a possible solution, okay? And just in building an experience that's more aligned with the traditions and everyone's safety. So members of Biters Anonymous will encourage audience participation during the solution segment to help members communicate. So we're going to have the cast introduce themselves right now. So everybody want to say hi, say who you are? Why don't we start at this end here?
Hello, I'm Fancy the Persian Cat. I'm also the group GSR. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Fancy. And who else do we have?
I got two to deal with. I'm Bo the Boxer. I'm coming into my first meeting today.
Okay, Bo, welcome.
Welcome, Bo.
And then who else do we have? Okay.
I'm Pete. I've been here for a year.
Okay, Pete, welcome.
Hi, I'm Abby, and I'm a tabby cat, and I'm a newcomer here at Scratchers Anonymous.
Welcome,
Welcome,
Abby.
Tabby.
Hey, Tabby.
Abby.
I'm Elvis,
Oh,
and I'm a Bengal cat, and I am a 13th stepper.
Okay. Thanks, Elvis.
Nice.
hi, I'm
Typecast.
Daisy. I'm a dachshund, and I am the newcomer liaison.
Okay, welcome, Daisy.
I'm Benny the Beagle, the chair and the secretary.
Okay, Benny, thank you. Welcome. So we're gonna get started, okay? So our first issue is about group unity, dealing with unsolicited opinions. So we're gonna start off. It's the evening time, and a meeting of Biters Anonymous is already in progress. And Benny is going to be calling on the next member to share.
Thank you, Daisy, for your share. Okay, so before we close, now we come to the portion of the meeting reserved for newcomers. Would anyone like to share? I see Abby's paws raised.
Hi, everyone. My name is Abby, and I'm a biter.
Oh, hey, sorry I'm late. This is a Biters Anonymous meeting, right?
Yes, it is, but
I'm Bo. Ooh, are those organic biscuits? Excuse me.
yes, but this is a short, height, big bite meeting, specifically for small to medium-sized cats and dogs.
Are you kidding? I thought Biters Anonymous was for anyone who wanted to quit biting. If there was a meeting only for boxers, you'd call that doggist. And besides, my grandma was a terrier.
Okay, pause. 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 We're gonna pause for the panel. Okay. All right. So.
Don't use over it.
Okay. So do you want to speak a little bit on this situation? Like, what might we deal with in an event where somebody is saying, I thought this meeting was for everyone.
Okay. Well, I'm wondering if we have different answers.
Actually, okay.
It's okay.
Okay.
Answers.
And what I would have done if I was the chair of this meeting would have been to welcome Bo in and say, yes, please come in, especially a newcomer. If I'd known Bo for 15 years and he'd walked in and said, what? I'd say, read the fucking website. You know better. But a newcomer coming into a meeting that is specific, what's it called?
Big bite. No.
No.
Fitness.
When a meeting is
Like
focused.
infinity? Okay.
But when a meeting has a specific focus.
Okay.
I would invite them in and let them know, and that can be tricky. Say if it is a men's women or a men's women or a men's stag, or if it is a closed LGBTQ, there's decisions and reasoning to be made and group conscience to be adhered to. So I wouldn't, what I'm saying is I wouldn't have said come in. I would have been open to that and talked to the group about it, is what I meant to say.
Awesome. Mike C., did you have anything you wanted to share on this?
Hi family, marijuana addict, my name is Mike C.
Hey, Mike.
I've learned to err on the side of inclusiveness. I would not want to be the reason for one of my brother or sister addicts not being able to get sober and clean. There are special interest groups, like was talked about just previously, but I would definitely lean toward the inclusiveness versus the exclusiveness.
Awesome. Thank you
Okay,
so
can
much.
I interject
Yes.
also? Hey, everybody,
Yes.
Rich here, Grateful Marijuana Addict. I was having a conversation with somebody about this earlier, and what I would do is I would invite the person in initially. I would then talk to the group and have an initial group conscience. Do we want to open up tonight's meeting to this larger dog, or do we not? And if we don't, what I would do is, as a chairperson, is I would politely talk to the person and say, hey, look, this is a small dogs only meeting. Do you identify as a small dog? And if they said, yes, I identify as a small dog, I would welcome them at the meeting. If not, I would tell them where there are other meetings are located nearby. You can go down the street to this kennel down the street. There is there's an all-inclusive dog open meeting of Biters Anonymous. That's what I would do.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, panelists. Okay, so now we're going to, does anybody else have any thoughts that they want to share? Mike G.
Hi, Michael. This is the essential question to ask a newcomer. Do you have a desired stop?
Yes.
And that's, they qualify or they don't.
You're asking if that helps them, if that qualifies them for the meeting?
Right. It does.
Well, yeah, I think that the point is that the assumption, regardless, is that anyone coming to a meeting has a desire to stop. I wouldn't be like, I'm gonna smoke forever, but let me check out that meeting, you know? And it's about that there are groups that have specific focus, just as there are groups of any fellowship that are open or closed.
Right.
So with that in mind, and the specific focus meetings have become more prevalent in the last smushes of years.
Yeah, maybe like a year.
So yeah, it is not, it's like what I think what we all were saying was, in the case of it being a group focus and the newcomer being told, you know, this isn't a meeting that, the safety of the group depends on this being the closed meeting, here are other meetings, that would be handled in that way that they're a fellow. I personally wouldn't do that. And if so, and personally, just as is me, if the group said, you know, no, with the group conscience, which is absolutely what we're guided by, I might leave and just say, hey, let's go have coffee.
Yeah.
I like dogs.
Yeah.
So it besides, like outside the group conscience, we all have our own autonomy. But I would think that 99.5 out of 100 times that Bo would be let into a meeting regardless of the circumstance or specific focus.
Yeah.
I just want to recall a story. One time I was at a meeting and it actually wasn't somebody who, in that sense, qualifies because they were just a visitor and they wanted to observe a meeting, but it wasn't an open meeting, it was a closed meeting. And what we decided in that situation was we said, could you please wait in the kitchen for a moment? And we then conferred, and we ended up deciding to open the meeting up for that visitor as a group conscious because we wanted to support that person taking a look at what our program is about.
Yeah.
So that's also a situation, you know, it doesn't hurt to say, mind waiting outside, let the group discuss it.
Yes.
And then somebody will bring you in. And in a previous situation, exactly what you said happened. The person had to tell them that no, the group decided against it, but ended up hanging out with that person and just left the meeting. So those are two awesome scenarios.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. I see. I'm going to get to you in a moment. I saw his hand first. Yeah.
She was up first.
Oh, okay. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Thanks. Melanie, marijuana addict. Hi, I'm just wondering, in that scenario, if it's a Zoom meeting, what would be the best way to do that? If there's no kitchen, obviously there's, how are you gonna hold a group discussion without shame, without doing it in front of one person.
Right, okay. I can speak to that. There are some meetings that will have breakout rooms where the actual meeting is held, and then they will have a spiritual bouncer, so to speak, in like the main area of the meeting to have a conversation with people, to just like check in to see how they identify, if it is a specifically identifying kind of meeting. Just so that there's not what you're talking about, that kind of like embarrassment or you know, like conversing in front of everybody. So that person who is acting as a spiritual bouncer may then at that point go to the meeting, ask them to hang out in the waiting room, and then come back and take a group conscience in that instance. And that'll oftentimes generally be the case if it's a Zoom meeting.
Can I also interject very, very briefly? Not everyone looks like what they feel inside.
Yeah.
You know, so that if it's a, for example, a women's and non-binary only meeting, someone may come to that meeting that may appear to us looking at them to be male, but inside they don't feel male. You know, and in that case, you know, we have to take people at their word.
Yeah, you gotta take that into account.
And I'll also say that that's, I think, a big reason, besides just opening a meeting, that the name and focus of the meeting is often the first sentence of the format. And you can go, oh shit, I think I clicked the wrong link. If it's a, you know, and there has been issues with that, with a phone, it was a Zoom meeting, but it was only phone, it was a women's focus, and it was a more male voice. And it kicked him out because it was a knee-jerk reaction. You know, if for the safety of the meeting, the person running it, and then it was like, well, what if they were trans? What if they, you know, identify? So then that whole discussion happened, which was great. But to your question, there are several ways of sequestering someone within Zoom, but those are technical questions, so we didn't talk about that.
Yeah.
We all know Zoom pretty well by now.
Did that answer things, Melanie? Okay, I wanna go to the gentleman behind you and then.
First of all, I just want to tell a funny story about, you mentioned clicking on the wrong link. I clicked onto a wrong link and there was no, you know, nobody like allowing people to, I just ended up in this big women's meeting. And someone was in the middle of their share and they stopped to ask me to leave. And I was like, oh, my bad, sorry. And as I was like going to click, they were all laughing and I heard someone say, who's the hunk? That was her words, not mine.
So you're the one repeating, all right.
True. I just wanted to say that if I was, because I was assuming this is an awesome format for this, by the way. Great job. I'm assuming that this was an in-person meeting, right?
Yes.
Zoom, we can handle this in so many different ways.
Yes.
As you said, if I was this newcomer, and I think to the point earlier about asking the person to leave the room and then having a vote, if that's an option, I would definitely not want to like sit in front of a bunch of people like essentially judging whether I'm allowed to stay in the meeting or not. I would rather just be asked to leave. That would be really off-putting if it was like my first meeting ever.
Yeah.
I mean, I always think about people's first meetings ever, or you know, one of their first. Like, this is not only their introduction to this meeting, this is their introduction to Marijuana Anonymous, which can have a huge impact on like the future of. There's so many people share about. Fortunately, there are people that were hearing it now that they've come back, that they were totally turned off for one reason or another, not that it's anyone's fault necessarily, by some bad experience they had in their very first meeting. You're so impressionable at that time. So I really like the idea of, hey, you know, let's you and I go out and talk. Yeah. Like, you know, it's tough. I think that, and it's always off-putting a little bit. We're jerked and we don't really know what to do, and there's always like, am I going to be the first person to speak up? You know, but yeah, that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Aaron. I'm a marijuana advocate.
Thank you, Aaron. We're gonna
We're gonna, okay.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna take this and then we're gonna resume back because we still have a couple more issues with our lovely actors to go through. But just for everybody's understanding, Bo is not a newcomer, okay? But that does like open up a lot of space for us to further discuss when this situation does happen with a newcomer. Absolutely.
Oh, was Joe Mar's other dog the newcomer?
I'm just new to this meeting.
Oh.
New to this meeting.
But your other puppet was a newcomer, right?
No.
It's been here a year.
Yes, that's what I heard.
No.
Okay, fine.
No.
But unlike how I just acted, because I've known Joe Moore for 95 years, what I want to stress about the entirety overall of everything we've talked about is that I always need to remember that the rooms, that at its ideal, the rooms are the safe place for me.
Yeah.
And that's not always easy when things come up because I'm an addict and I'm angry and I want to yell and I know what's best and we all know what's best and everyone should do it the way that I say. So when I'm of service somewhere, if I was in this meeting, whatever happens, well, the knee-jerk reaction is, this is my safe place and blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like that anything that we have discussed as an option would be handled with kindness and with the, you know, regardless of what is said or how, it's still one addict helping another, the crux of our program. Because, you know, even if you're saying, you know, it's not like, get in the kitchen, we're gonna talk about what you look like. You know what I mean? And if somebody is our fellow, they will understand not only the language, not only the situation, but return that safety, that fellowship vibe of love and respect and kind. So, because it sounds harsh, can you wait outside? Yeah. But it's like, you know, just we have these rules for the safety of the meeting, can you wait outside so we can vote on it, you know? That would be the vibe.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna get back to our regularly scheduled program and unpause, and get back to Bo.
I thought Biters Anonymous was for anyone who wanted to quit biting. This sounds kind of doggish to me. Besides, my grandma was a terrier.
Do you identify as a terrier?
Over boxer blood? No way, baby.
Okay.
So I've met Bo in a meeting before.
So let's see. So we had we already had some great input from all of you all. So let's go and see what Benny has to say.
I'm sorry, Bo. Biters Anonymous is for anyone who wants to quit biting, and the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop biting. However, in accordance with our fourth tradition, individual meetings are autonomous and can manage themselves as they please, except where BA is affected as a whole. That, for us, means helping this particular group feel safe in a space where we can discuss things that we may not feel comfortable with sharing in another space. Will Daisy please step out with Bo for a minute so we can conduct a quick group conscience to see if we can allow you to stay?
Okay.
Oh damn, we hit all the points. I feel like this was a test and I might have gotten it wrong.
All right, thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Okay, so now we're gonna go on to our next issue, which covers group safety and dealing with disruptions and potentially calling authorities.
Okay, sorry, Abby. Please continue.
Thank you. Well, I started in Scratchers Anonymous, but my human thought it was a good idea for me to come here because, well, I haven't scratched anything aside from my post in 2 weeks now. Thank you. I've always been biting too, and now it's just gotten worse since I stopped scratching. So here I am. I want to stop biting. My human wants me to stop, but I can't. Then she asked me if I thought I was a dog. I don't know, but I don't know. I don't feel like a cat anymore, and that just makes me want to bite even more. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby.
Oh wait, hold on, what?
She's saying that she's not sure.
Oh no, okay, this.
Okay. Finally, Pete, I see your paw.
That's okay.
Yeah, Pete, biter.
Hi, Pete.
Hi, Pete.
Hey, Pete.
Yeah, so I've been here a year. Before that, I was a biting fiend. Everything that could fit in my mouth had teeth marks on it. I went from house to house, and the only thing that's worked so far is the steps and sticking to them. Not talking about this other Gen C crap. Listen, if it ain't about biting and scratching, it shouldn't be here. And if you don't know if you're a cat or a dog, look under your fur and move on.
Hold on now, Pete.
That's not right.
Okay, pause.
I think he's right. I stand.
Okay, all right. So we have a situation where Pete is telling. Pete is referring to Daisy, saying, "Listen, if you don't know if you're a cat or a dog, look under your fur." So, how might we handle this scenario? Does any panelists want to chime in?
Well, I think Pete for Congress, first of all. Besides the entire issue, a deeper conversation about the what am I saying? Gender fluidity and all of that. As the chair, did they mention, I might have missed it, if this was a non-crosstalk meeting?
Oh,
Okay.
we're gonna go over that in the solution.
If this were a non-crosstalk meeting, the secretary at very first has the obligation, not just the right, not just the power, not just the whatever, the obligation to stop the chair, the speaker, and not even have to say, there's a lot of complicated things there. Everyone is welcome here, but this is a non-crosstalk meeting. So if you would like to share about yourself, we'd love to hear that. And if not, we're going to move on. Then you have a great parking lot meeting about all the other shit. But in the which then could turn into a business meeting to do a format for, extrapolate. But in the moment, situations like this are all about to me, the safety and the atmosphere in the meeting at that moment for any newcomers that might be there. And that's why I love the traditions, because they address how to handle all of this stuff. So at the very least, just initially, if crosstalk were in order, I would, call a penalty and say, in that inclusive way, we'd love to hear about you, which is not true, but we're doing it. But this is a non-crosstalk meeting, so that would be my first deal.
Awesome. Anything else, panelists?
Hi, family.
Mike.
Mike C. Yeah, I was thinking if I didn't feel comfortable in dealing with this situation, I could check with some members that have more experience than I do, like GSRs, or even get on the Moss website and send a message to the appropriate trustee.
Awesome. Was there anything that you wanted to add to that, Rich?
Yeah, like I said before, you really can't tell what's inside a person just by looking at them. Not everyone looks like what they are inside, and I think that, as a chairperson, the chairperson needs to make sure that everyone in the group is respectful of people's choices, and not everything is what it appears to be on the surface.
Thanks, Rich. Did any?
I'm sorry, can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
Another, that was kind of the technical take I had on it at the beginning, but we all know that this this program and all 12-step programs are a bait and switch. Because marijuana only appears in the first step. The rest of the steps are about me uncovering, discovering, and discarding issues, scenarios, mindsets, old ideas that made me want to be high and check out 24/7. And that is why we share. So that whatever issues are going on that are in my brain, it's not about how much I smoked, it's about how this happened with this woman, blah, blah, blah. Sure, is that solution? Oh no, is that what I would tell someone who was coming to me for information about the program? No, but that's what I get out of my head when I share in a safe place. Because if it's in there, I know what shuts it up, and that's a bong hit. So in addition to everything else that these issues have, I've heard it said, it's my 3 minutes and I'll read the phone book if I want to, with a 1-minute gentle reminder.
Thanks for sharing.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to unpause and resume with Benny's response.
Now hold on there, Pete. We don't give feedback on people's shares.
Now, does anybody have any other thoughts about something else that Benny might say? Yeah.
I'm an addict named Ron.
Hi, Ron.
I was thinking about last night's meeting. There was instructions about crosstalk, right? Mike, you read that. But there was not a comment that said about giving advice. It didn't say we don't give advice. And essentially what Benny was doing, he was giving advice, right? And I know, in the whole preamble and all the instructions, when a newcomer comes in, they have blinders, they're terrified, they don't hear a word that's said. Okay, so those instructions really fall on deaf ears for the newcomer. It's good for us, good for the people with more time to probably be reminded weekly or daily or however often we're going to meetings. Because there's that saying, what are we, fast forgetters? Right,
Selective reminders.
MTC, right, my 2 cents. About, if that's an issue, then somebody's got to put it in there that says, we don't give advice. And that's kind of what the definition of crosstalk is that we use in District 5, is, we don't, crosstalk is, direct comments at someone specific. Yeah, and it's like I'm chatting with Kathy on the side when the meeting's going on, that's disruptive. And I guess it's construed as crosstalk as well. And anything like that. But the direct advice, I think, is the part that needs to be in there. Anyway, thanks for
Awesome. Thanks, Ron.
Hey, go.
I just wanted to share that if you want a good definition of crosstalk, we kind of borrowed some of the lingo from Al-Anon. And if you come to a Vienna MA meeting, in our script, it actually talks about not giving advice and all the things that could be understood under crosstalk. So feel free to message the chair and get a copy of that for your own meeting if you'd like it.
Thanks, Phil.
Okay. Thanks, Phil.
I have a very borderline crosstalk question, actually, that maybe somebody could, I'll just throw it out there and you can provide feedback or not. Aaron, marijuana addict. So this is not as much of an issue in virtual meetings, which the most of the meetings I attend, because you're on mute, but I found that I laugh a lot, and people share things all the time that are intended to be funny, and then sometimes they're like sneaky funny, and maybe they intend it, maybe they don't, but I'll let out a quick sort of chuckle, and then I'm like, oh, that's kind of, I probably shouldn't have done that. And I even did it last night in the parents' meeting. I laughed once and I was like, oh, I gotta stop that. So I don't know, what do you, I'm just curious what people feel about laughing at people's shares.
Can I crosstalk on that?
Give us some advice.
I will. Been going to meetings for a long time, and there's a lot of funny shit.
So much funny
stuff. Oh my God. And a lot of it's why. because we can relate to it one-on-one.
Absolutely.
And I don't think there's a damn thing wrong with that.
Okay.
And I know a lot of newcomers come in and think, you guys are having way too fucking much fun.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can't be serious about this.
Yeah.
And
Right.
but there's nothing we can do about it.
Right.
You know, they'll eventually get it. I'm sorry, Mike, I'm
Thank you.
stepping on your toes.
Yeah. Mike.
I call that understanding laughter.
Yes.
Identification.
Yeah,
Identifying laughter.
relatable laughter. So,
Yes,
all those
relatable
things.
laughter.
Just really quickly, there are funny things. Yes, there are funny things that happen to me. There are things that I laugh at because it's understanding laughter that it doesn't sound like in the moment. If I've already interrupted by laughing, I'll be like, I'm sorry, I know what you mean, or whatever. But I have had like a conversation like afterwards. And this is a different scenario, but I did say once after the meeting, I'm sorry, I wasn't laughing at your share, the dog was scooting its butt on the floor. So like I had gone up, which is kind of a good thing to say, I know maybe you didn't intend it to be funny, but I laughed when you said your kid threw a grapefruit on the roof because that happened to me too.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point, is you're hearing, you're identifying, you're making connections with another addict.
Yes.
Awesome.
Maybe.
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry.
Or each marijuana addict. I don't really, if we still have time for this, it's great, if not. But I don't know, I don't think I could count the number of meetings I've been to where somebody will say, I know we're not supposed to crosstalk, but.
Yeah.
And I almost have a personal campaign that we should have some kinds of crosstalk. If you look at the definition, I'll have to check out Vienna's, but I mean,
Yeah.
the definition that's in the MA suggested script where crosstalk is defined as, but we could say things like directly commenting on another person's share, no. Or giving advice, especially, all that stuff, absolutely not. Unless, I've been to one years ago, an AA meeting that was, crosstalk was encouraged, and they would interrupt you.
Yeah.
But outside of that format, a lot of the things that officially would be crosstalk, we do, and we almost appreciate, especially newcomers, appreciate the topic being shared on that they said they've had a problem on. And I wish we could kind of redefine crosstalk.
Yeah.
You know, restate our definition.
Some groups have. Some groups have.
Yeah, we're just gonna like keep it moving, but
that there is an issue with the crosstalk thing. There's a way around crosstalk. Instead of saying, I hate to crosstalk, but when Phil said that he went to marching band, I have said in my story, I went to marching band as another person shared, or as someone else in the meeting shared. The crosstalk is for the safety, so I don't say, when you went to marching band and you did that, then that made me think of this, or here's what I did. It's about being able to share what I want to share without it coming back at me. But if I identify with something, I will say that and say, something that another fellow said reminded me that. And that's very different than like, Tiffany, you should kick him to the curb. So, okay, thank you. I talked too much.
Yeah, so I just want to let everybody know that we're going to have a bunch of handouts. We have handouts that are available, that are accessible through a QR code that leads to the RNA website. So that's going to be answering a lot of questions about conversation and language, okay? So we want to get back to the skit before we run out of time and resume with, I think it's with Benny.
I will have to ask you to not refer positively or negatively to others' share. Please keep your share focused on yourself without making inappropriate comments towards others' experience. Moving forward, if anyone needs to further discuss this, please speak to our GSR Fancy, or please bring this discussion forward in our business meeting, which is happening after tonight's meeting. Let's really purr it out, folks.
We're ready to accept the things we cannot fight, the courage to change the things we do, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Okay, so now we're gonna move on to our business meeting.
Oh.
Okay, calling the business meeting to order. Any new business?
Yes, I motion that we add new language to our script to remind folks to not use their own share to speak positively or negatively about someone else's share. Some of us, especially the newcomer, have a great difficulty sharing some close-to-home thoughts and feelings that relate to their recovery. And I think we must remind members to practice using I statements and to keep their focus on themselves.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Great. All in favor? Passed.
And maybe we need to ask people not to come back to the meeting if they're gonna be such major disruptors and pee on everyone's parade.
Excuse you?
Hi, Daisy Biter.
Hi, Daisy.
Hi, Daisy.
We have to consider how these rooms have supported us all as newcomers and create a safe space for those that come after us. It's normal for many of us to still want to act out, however much time we have in the rooms. Shoot, I certainly don't have a problem chewing up a collar right now and leaving poop in a yard.
Oh, you got something for me, Daisy?
No, but my man does, and he's a Rottweiler.
A wiener and a meaner. Please, I'll rip his ankles to shreds.
How dare you?
Order, order. The chair recognizes Fancy.
Thank you, Benny. Fancy, Biter. I move that we table this specific discussion until our next business meeting.
Okay. Fancy, keep on going. Yeah, you can go ahead. Yeah.
If we cannot come to an agreement that helps everyone feel heard, we can talk about this further at the district meeting or see what solutions World Services has to offer.
Okay, so now we're gonna go on to our final issue that brings us to Abby's house. So this is gonna be the next day, where Abby gets a phone call. Ring, ring.
Hello?
Hey, Abby, right? It's Elvis from the meeting. I just wanted to call and see if you were all right. I'm sorry about getting all hot under the collar. I know Pete can be a real jerk sometimes, but he means well. How you doing today?
Better. Thanks, Elvis. Have you been going to meetings for a long time?
Oh yeah, I have like 8 years in the program. And if you need to talk about things, your feelings and stuff, I've had similar issues come up in my past, and I can be your sponsor if you need.
Wow, really? Okay. Oh, but how did you get my number?
From the phone list. I thought you might want to hear advice from someone with a long time, and having spent some time in Scratches Anonymous myself, I can do that.
Really?
Of course. Plus, I wrote a book all about safety. And it's in Catazon. If you want to buy it, I can give you a discount. Or you can just come over to my litter box and we can read it together. I got a big place, and I got my sand scooped. It makes a relaxing spot to stretch and figure things out and lick any wounds.
Pause. All right. So,
Oh dear.
so panelists, how might we address this?
I put Elvis down. But yes, let someone else speak because I go on.
Like, do
Go
you
ahead.
have anything, Mike, here, like, in terms of, like, if somebody is approaching a newcomer, grabbing their name off the phone list and inviting them back to their litter box? How might, anything off the top of your head?
Yeah, let's see here.
Has there been a,
Swift neutering.
That's a good question. That's a good
Yeah.
question.
Well,
Has there been a complaint about Elvis, you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, that's something to consider.
yeah.
Yeah.
As it stands, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
As it stands, the only thing, because Abby was a newcomer,
Yes.
And Elvis, well, it seems like Elvis should have been talked to and probably has been about 70,000 times since he walked in the door. Scratchers Anonymous. And unfortunately, in this, like, if this were happening at a meeting, and I mean a phone call, a conversation, you know, a lot of this, I'm going to try to speak clearly, but quickly, but it's yucky, it's societal. Is that when there are Elvises in meetings, those of us who have been around know it. And watch, and if Elvis took Abby into the corner, I'm over there in the conversation. And this is what I mean societally, is that we would warn the newcomers about the guy. And even though the guy or girl, there's totally 13-stepping chicks, don't get me wrong. And 13-stepping gender blah blah blahs and everything under the sun. Bad apples, bad apples. Sake apples. But unfortunately, we still do, to a large degree, live in that space in the meetings. You remember, if you say so, everyone's welcome at the meeting. There is that option. There is that option that I take of knowing that guy's a scumbag. I'm going over there. I've said things directly to him. I speak up. And I feel, I was just speaking to another member about this, that doesn't happen enough. Where the poor behavior is called out, not necessarily in public, like, hey, but in the moment. And because unfortunately, without that, if he's without my knowledge calling her at home to compromise a newcomer, I won't know that unless she reaches out to me.
Right.
And when I'm a newcomer, this is a safe place. Everybody knows, so he must be a good guy. Like, I've had that experience with men and just crazy women who weren't wasn't sexual, but it was like, and I feel like, well, they're part of the program. I should tell them I'm supposed to be open. I'm supposed to be helpful. And then you go, no. And you get here a while and you hear, you don't have to like everybody, but you have to love everybody. And a lot of times I feel that, I'll just end with this, I'll probably talk more later, and with, that there is this overarching thing that I've seen in the program where things are things are not said, things are not addressed, and instead are given great weight and discussion time at fellowship afterwards. And about what we should do and about what that person has done 50,000 times in the past. And it is not addressed. And it's like, well, it's program, it's meetings, what are you gonna do? But rigorously honest goes for how I need to live my life to feel okay, and what is right or what is wrong, and what is in the best interest of the unity of the group, tradition one. And I feel as though program is utilized as an excuse to avoid confrontation a lot of times. And confrontation is a bad word, but it's necessary. It's necessary to address an Elvis in the moment, because otherwise we are just going to the girls and saying, you really shouldn't have worn that to the meeting. You know what I mean? Yeah. Which is a harsh, I'm talking societally. Yeah. So that was a big drag, what I just said. So I would just hope that Abby would, in this situation, if you could tell a newcomer, here's a positive spin. If you see a newcomer, you say, everything's great. If there's any problems, if you feel uncomfortable about anything, please feel free to give me a call. And reaching out to the newcomers so that they have resources should something like this happen in a vacuum. was always a great idea. So thanks.
Thank
Thank you for letting me share again.
Thanks, LB. Rich?
Yeah, I'd like to interject. Hey, everybody, Rich here, Marijuana Addict. First of all, I volunteered to be Elvis because I thought this is a very important topic. You know, as LB alluded to, you know, there are people that are experienced in the program, and we know what to do, and we know how to handle things. And I think it's up to us. I know there's a lot of people in this room with a lot of time, you know, and sponsorship. This is really where sponsorship comes in. And Elvis's sponsor, as soon as he gets wind that Elvis is doing this, needs to sit him down, needs to have a conversation. We need to protect our newcomers and you know, and other women. And a lot of meetings that I go to, you know, we swoop in. You know, if there's a newcomer guy, all the guys swoop in and talk to him and get him up to speed. Same thing with a new woman. All the women swarm in and talk to, you know, and that's what we need to do. As people with experience, as time in the program, it's really up to us to make our meetings open and welcoming to the newcomer. So, thanks.
Okay, so, yes, Ron.
I'm not agreeing. I'm sorry.
Rich.
Was saying, you know, if that person is unsponsored, then people with time in the meeting need to swoop in and let that person know what's going on. In the meetings, during the meetings, we often hear lots and lots and lots about the steps. But how often does anybody talk about traditions?
Yeah.
It's glossed over or non-existent. Now, you know, I've been to meetings where we have tradition studies, big book studies, and is that a dirty word?
No.
I know
No,
we
sir.
was in trouble once upon a time, but big book studies, and we get to the traditions, and we would read them, and we would share about them, and we talk about them. And then Life with Hope, the back part of the book, the traditions, they're very short, but we could expound on them. And you know, obviously it's a lot of opinion back and forth in the room. I mean, it's based on the words there and how we interpret them, right? But at least we're reading them and trying to make heads or tails of them. But I can't remember the last time traditions were brought up in a meeting, and not any of the Zoom meetings I've been to. And yeah, I've been fishing on a lot of meetings since the world ended. But, you know, trying to get back in on that. But yeah, really not at all. And I think that's really important. We focus on the traditions. We understand that. We understand that we don't 13-step any individual. And we look at the individuals who are taking advantage or pushing themselves on every level, but not who they are and what the circumstances are. We have to protect each other now.
Thanks.
Well said.
Thanks, Ron. I'm gonna take John D, and then we're gonna resume back to the show.
Okay.
I want to see this could end a lot.
We're gonna see what Abby does, yeah.
Hey everybody, John Evick.
Hey, John.
I have an actual personal experience on this very, very specific subject. At a time when I was about a year into recovery, so this would have been what, 2018 BC, before COVID. I was in a local group. It's small. It was always a small group, mostly men all the time. And once a woman came and visited us, a young lady. She was new to the program. Everybody was just saying hello. It was fine and everything. And after the meeting, my fellows at the meeting came to me and were like, you know, man, you seemed a little extra focused on the, and super nice. And they were just pretty much saying like, whoa, man, what are you doing? And at the time I was kind of like, well, I don't really see any difference between how I was interacting and how they were interacting. And then in retrospect, as I've been further in the program and just in mentally whatever, I've been able to be really, really grateful that they did. And that's a whole other aspect, is that for the person might not realize that they're overstepping or acting in a way that's kind of inappropriate. And it's really useful, it's really useful in my experience to get checked on that. And to get people to say like, you're not going about this just right. You're not doing that thing.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
Wow.
Okay, because we're gonna like get back, but I'll take the bill.
Matter. I just thought maybe it's a longer discussion, but I do know many people in the program in relationships with each other. And I actually, my wife had a lot of sobriety actually when she first started going to meetings. And then about a year later, when I also had a year and a half, we started dating. But I was conscious of, hey, don't approach her now, or don't wait until you're a year completely sober. I wasn't at the time, and actually that relationship ended up being a big part of my recovery, and it provides many useful challenges today in my recovery. You know, there might be some good intention with somebody wanting to be with somebody else in the program, but like to let that person know, like, dude, I know you've had a lot of recovery, but please, you know, don't take anybody unless they have at least half the amount of recovery you have.
Right. I think that's, I'm sorry, Phil, I think that's definitely a topic to like expand more upon, because that does really happen in a number of fellowships, not just ours. But this specifically is an 8-year fellow
With a newcomer.
inviting a newcomer with 2 weeks to his litter box.
Yeah.
So it's like, I definitely see what you're
Not
saying.
just romance, also finance.
Yeah, no, I think that was just, I want to do now an online traditions workshop. So I'll talk to them. And we're talking about all this stuff and 13 stepping. I'm psyched about that. We'll talk about it then.
We'll talk about that more. We're gonna round we're gonna round up the show and see what Abby does. Okay.
Thanks, Elvis. Can I get back to you? I have another call coming in. Thanks, bye.
Hello?
Hey, Fancy, it's Abby from the meeting yesterday.
Hey, Abby. So good to see you at the meeting. What's going on? How you doing?
I think I'm okay, but I had a question. Elvis offered to be my sponsor, and I wondered, what do you think? He invited me to his litter box to talk about recovery stuff. He even told me about this book he wrote about sponsorship and staying safe in meeting called Scratch 22. He sounds so knowledgeable. What do you think?
Whoa, this is not okay, Abby. I know he's a cat, but that's some serious dogpiling. I think this is a good opportunity to talk to you about 13 stepping and for the group to introduce a safety statement into the meeting script, because this is not okay.
Wow, thanks, Fancy. I'm so glad I talked with you.
Me too, Abby. Just know you can always reach out to me to talk about things if you're unsure about what's happening. You're our most important member, and the group is here to help all members feel safe and seen while we focus on our recovery.
Okay, and with that.